Most people believe the night is simply the end of the day, a time to shut down, a time to escape responsibility. They turn off the lights, collapse into bed, and assume that whatever happened today will somehow dissolve by morning. But that belief is one of the greatest illusions modern life has taught us. The Stoics would strongly disagree. They understood something that most people still fail to recognize. The night is not passive. It is not neutral. It is not empty. The night is active. It is formative. It is one of the most powerful psychological environments you enter every single day. When the world goes quiet, when distractions fade, when the body finally slows down, the mind does not stop working. In fact, this is when it works the hardest. Your body rests, but your subconscious does not. Your eyes close, but your inner world stays wide open, and whatever thoughts, emotions, and beliefs you carry into sleep do not disappear. They deepen. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He wrote that the soul becomes dyed by the color of its thoughts. In other words, whatever occupies your mind eventually becomes part of who you are. And there is no moment when the mind is more vulnerable, more receptive, more impressionable than in the final minutes before sleep. Most people unknowingly hand their subconscious fear, doubt, regret, and distraction every night. They scroll endlessly, replay arguments, criticize themselves, or worry about the future. Then they wonder why they wake up exhausted, unmotivated, or anxious. But there is no mystery here. The mind never sleeps. It takes what you give it and multiplies it in the dark. This is why the Stoics treated the evening as sacred, not dramatic, not mystical, but intentional. They understood that if you want to shape your character, discipline your emotions, and build inner strength, you must begin with the quiet moments no one sees, especially the moments before sleep. This is what sculpted grace is about, not empty motivation, not shallow positivity, but disciplined inner mastery. Tonight and every night after, you hold a choice. You can fall asleep repeating the same story that has kept you stuck for years. Or you can use the night as a tool, a weapon, a training ground to shape the person you are becoming. Let's begin with the first Stoic lesson. Lesson 1. The mind never sleeps. You may feel exhausted when you lie down. Your muscles are heavy. Your breathing slows. Your eyelids finally give in. But make no mistake, your mind does not shut off. It never has, and it never will. Even while you sleep, your subconscious continues working relentlessly, processing information, reinforcing patterns, and strengthening beliefs that shape how you see the world. This is why sleep does not erase the day. It carries it forward. Have you ever gone to bed angry or stressed, only to wake up feeling exactly the same the next morning? That's not coincidence. That's your subconscious doing its job. It took the emotional state you fell asleep with and rehearsed it all night long. Sleep doesn't delete thoughts. It amplifies them. The Stoics understood this long before neuroscience confirmed it. Marcus Aurelius warned himself constantly to guard his thoughts because he knew they would shape his inner life. The mind is always listening, always absorbing, always building, and if you don't guide it, it will run on autopilot, often in the most destructive direction. This truth carries responsibility. If the mind never sleeps, then every careless thought before bed is an instruction. Every complaint is a command. Every fear is a blueprint. When you fall asleep replaying regret, the subconscious strengthens regret. When you fall asleep criticizing yourself, the mind sharpens that identity. Over time, those nightly rehearsals become automatic patterns that feel impossible to break. But this works both ways. If the mind never sleeps, it can also become your greatest ally. When you intentionally feed it clarity, strength, and purpose before sleep, it spends the night reinforcing those qualities. This is why disciplined thinkers, athletes, and leaders protect their nights. They understand that the last thoughts of the day are not small. They are foundational. The Stoics would say, this is where freedom begins. Not in controlling the world, but in controlling the inner dialogue that runs even when the body rests. To master the night is to master the unseen half of your life. And the person you wake up as tomorrow is already being shaped by what your mind is working on tonight. Lesson 2. The subconscious accepts everything. Paragraph 1. Here is a truth most people never realize until it's already shaped their entire life. Your subconscious does not argue with you. It does not analyze your thoughts. It does not pause to ask whether what you're saying is fair, logical, or even true. It simply listens, absorbs, and records. Whatever you repeat to yourself with emotion, especially at night, becomes part of the internal program that governs your behavior. If you go to bed telling yourself, I'm failing, your subconscious doesn't respond with compassion or logic. It doesn't say, you had a hard day, give yourself grace. It writes it down as a command. If you repeat, nothing ever changes for me, it doesn't challenge that belief. It accepts it as law and begins shaping your perception to confirm it. This is why people feel stuck for years without knowing why. They are living under instructions they unknowingly gave themselves. The Stoics warned about this exact danger. Epictetus said that people are disturbed not by events, but by the judgments they form about those events. And those judgments, once repeated, sink into the subconscious. The mind does not care whether a belief empowers you or destroys you. It only cares whether it is repeated. That is what gives it power. This is why the moments before sleep are so critical. At night, your conscious mind weakens. The part of you that doubts, resists, and questions starts to shut down. Your subconscious, however, opens completely. It is like fertile soil with no fence, no filter, no protection. Whatever you plant there will grow. Fear grows. Gratitude grows. Self-doubt grows. Confidence grows. The soil makes no distinction. Think about how dangerous this becomes when left unattended. If you end your day scrolling through social media, comparing your life to others, your subconscious absorbs inadequacy. If you replay arguments or failures, your subconscious absorbs defeat. And then you wake up feeling heavy, insecure, or unmotivated without understanding why. The reason is simple. Your subconscious accepted what you gave it and worked on it all night. But here is the liberating truth. This same mechanism allows you to rewrite your inner world. If you go to bed repeating strength, discipline, and clarity, your subconscious accepts those too. Say, I am capable, I am building, I am moving forward. It will not argue, it will obey. The Stoics believed freedom came from mastering the inner world, not external circumstances. And mastery begins when you realize that your subconscious is always listening and that you're always programming it. Lesson 3. The most powerful moment of the day. Most people believe the most powerful part of the day is the morning. They talk about morning routines, early alarms, cold showers, and productivity hacks. And yes, mornings matter. But the Stoics understood a deeper truth. The morning does not begin the day. The night does. What you do before sleep determines how you show up when you wake. The final moments before sleep are unlike any other time of day. The world grows quiet. External demands fade. Your body slows down. And as this happens, your conscious defenses drop. The part of your mind that resists new ideas, doubts, affirmations, and overanalyzes everything begins to fade. What remains is the subconscious, wide open, receptive, and ready to absorb whatever you give it. This is why the night is so powerful. In the morning, your mind is already under attack. Notifications, responsibilities, stress, and expectations rush in immediately. But at night, you have something rare: control. You get to choose what enters your mind without interference. The Stoics valued this silence. Marcus Aurelius used the evening to reflect, not because he was tired, but because he understood that this quiet space was where character is shaped. Here's where most people fail. Instead of using this moment intentionally, they waste it. They scroll through their phone until their eyes burn. They fall asleep to noise, drama, or other people's stories. They replay mistakes, arguments, or worries about tomorrow. And then they wonder why their mornings feel heavy and unmotivated. The answer is simple. The most powerful moment of their day was handed over to distraction. But imagine using this moment differently. Imagine lying down and deliberately choosing your final thoughts. You slow your breathing. You let the day go. You repeat a few intentional affirmations. You visualize the person you're becoming: calm, disciplined, grounded. Your subconscious doesn't resist this. It absorbs it, and then it works on it all night long. This is why 5 minutes of intention before sleep is more powerful than hours of forced motivation during the day. The Stoics believed greatness was built in private, not in public displays, and there is no moment more private than the one right before you close your eyes. If you want to change your life, don't just wake up differently. Fall asleep differently. Because the most powerful moment of your day is not when the sun rises. It's when the lights go out. Lesson 4. The danger of negative thoughts. Everyone has experienced it. You lie down at night, turn off the lights, and suddenly your mind becomes loud. Arguments replay. Mistakes resurface. Worries about the future begin to stack one on top of another. You try to ignore them, but the silence only amplifies their volume. And by the time you finally fall asleep, your mind is already weighed down. This is not harmless. Negative thoughts at night are not just passing noise. They are seeds, and the subconscious soil is richest in the dark. When you go to bed carrying fear, anger, regret, or self-criticism, those emotions do not fade while you sleep. They take root. Your subconscious works on them for hours, reinforcing the same patterns that keep you anxious, insecure, or stuck. The Stoics warned about this long before modern psychology. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the quality of your thoughts determines the quality of your mind. What you repeatedly think about becomes your mental environment. And if that environment is filled with negativity, your inner life slowly becomes hostile territory. Night after night, those thoughts compound, turning temporary emotions into permanent beliefs. Here's what makes negative thoughts especially dangerous at night. Your defenses are down. During the day, distractions can interrupt harmful thinking, but at night, the mind is alone with itself. If you don't guide it, your fears will happily take control. One negative thought leads to another. A mistake becomes a pattern. A setback becomes an identity. Soon you're no longer thinking negatively. you're living under a negative story, and the subconscious does not question this story. It accepts it and begins shaping your behavior around it. You wake up with low energy, you hesitate where you should act, you avoid challenges because your mind has been rehearsing failure all night. This is how people sabotage themselves without realizing it. Not through dramatic choices, but through quiet, repeated thoughts before sleep. The Stoics believed that self-mastery begins with mental discipline. They practiced reflection, not rumination. They examined their actions to learn, not to punish themselves. You can do the same. Instead of replaying what went wrong, ask what you learned. Instead of criticizing yourself, affirm growth. The night does not have to belong to negativity. But if you don't guard your thoughts before sleep, negativity will gladly claim it. And over time, it will shape the life you wake up to. Lesson 5. Affirmations are commands. Many people dismiss affirmations as shallow or unrealistic. They hear phrases like, "I am strong" or "I am successful," and assume it's nothing more than empty self-help talk. But this misunderstanding comes from not knowing how the mind actually works. Affirmations are not wishes. They are not fantasies. They are instructions given directly to the subconscious, and the subconscious takes instructions seriously. Your subconscious does not ask whether an affirmation feels true right now. It does not check your past failures or current circumstances. It listens for repetition and emotion. Whatever you say to yourself consistently, especially before sleep, becomes part of your internal operating system. If you repeatedly say, "I can't change," your subconscious accepts it and builds behavior to support it. If you repeat, "I am disciplined and focused," it begins adjusting your actions to align with that command. The Stoics practiced this principle without ever using the modern word affirmation. Epictetus taught that a person must first decide who they wish to be, then act in accordance with that identity. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly reminded himself of his duty, strength, and responsibility. These were not empty words. They were mental commands designed to shape character through repetition. Affirmations are most powerful at night because the conscious mind, the part that argues and resists, is quieting down. During the day, you may say an affirmation and immediately hear an inner voice respond, "That's not true." But at night, that resistance fades. The subconscious becomes receptive. What you repeat in this state sinks deep and continues echoing while you sleep. This is why careless self-talk is so dangerous. Complaints are affirmations. Self-criticism is an affirmation. Doubt repeated often enough becomes belief. Many people unknowingly program weakness into themselves every night by the way they speak internally. They don't realize they are issuing commands that their subconscious will obey. But this also means you can reverse the process. Choose affirmations that align with the person you are becoming, not vague phrases, but grounded, powerful statements. I act with discipline. I finish what I start. I remain calm under pressure. Repeat them slowly before sleep. Feel them. Let them settle. Over time, these commands stop feeling like words and start feeling like truth. The Stoics believed character was built through repeated inner alignment. Affirmations are simply the modern expression of that ancient discipline. Lesson 6. Visualization shapes reality. The mind does not clearly distinguish between what is vividly imagined and what is repeatedly experienced. This is not philosophy alone. It is how the brain functions. When you visualize something with clarity and emotion, your subconscious responds as if it is real. It begins forming neural pathways that prepare you to act in alignment with what you imagine. The Stoics understood this intuitively, even without modern neuroscience to explain it. Marcus Aurelius often visualized challenges before they arrived. He imagined insults, setbacks, and hardships not to fear them, but to prepare his response. By rehearsing calm, discipline, and restraint in his mind, he trained himself to act that way when real pressure came. This is visualization used correctly, not fantasy, but preparation. At night, visualization becomes especially powerful. The body is still, the mind is quiet. The imagination is vivid. If you repeatedly picture yourself acting with confidence, patience, and strength, your subconscious begins adjusting your behavior to match that image. Over time, the line between imagination and identity starts to blur. You don't just see yourself as disciplined, you become disciplined. Most people visualize unintentionally, and that is the problem. They imagine worst-case scenarios. They replay embarrassing moments. They picture failure before it even happens. Their subconscious absorbs these images and begins shaping behavior around avoidance and fear. Then they wonder why they hesitate, procrastinate, or shrink under pressure. The answer is simple. They've been rehearsing defeat in their mind, but visualization can be used deliberately. Before sleep, take a few moments to picture a specific situation. See yourself waking up focused. See yourself handling stress calmly. See yourself speaking clearly, moving confidently, and responding rather than reacting. Keep it simple. Keep it realistic. Let the image feel natural, not forced. The Stoics believed that the mind should train for life the same way the body trains for battle, through rehearsal. Visualization is mental training. What you repeatedly imagine, you slowly become. And when you use the quiet power of the night to shape those images, you give your subconscious hours to reinforce them. Reality often follows where the mind has already gone. Lesson 7. Discipline begins in silence. Most people think discipline is loud. They imagine motivation speeches, aggressive routines, dramatic transformations. But the Stoics understood a quieter truth. Real discipline begins in silence. It begins in the moments when no one is watching, applauding, or validating you. And there is no moment more silent than the one just before sleep. At night, there is nothing to perform for. No audience, no pressure. Only you and your thoughts. This is where habits are either strengthened or weakened. If you avoid reflection, your mind fills the silence with distraction. If you face yourself honestly, the silence becomes a teacher. The Stoics welcomed this quiet because it exposed weakness without judgment and allowed correction without ego. Marcus Aurelius wrote his meditations at night, not for others, but for himself. He used silence to examine his conduct, to remind himself of his principles, and to recommit to discipline. He understood that consistency in these quiet moments mattered more than intensity during the day. Discipline, in its truest form, is not force. It is alignment. Modern life avoids silence at all costs. Phones, noise, content, constant stimulation. But this avoidance weakens discipline. When you never sit with your thoughts, you never train the ability to guide them. And when the mind is undisciplined, behavior soon follows. You react instead of respond. You seek comfort instead of growth. Nighttime silence offers an opportunity to reverse this. Instead of reaching for distraction, Sit with yourself. Ask simple questions. Did I act with integrity today? Where did I lose control? What will I do better tomorrow? Not to criticize yourself, but to sharpen awareness. This practice builds quiet strength. The Stoics believed that mastery over oneself was the highest form of power, and that mastery was cultivated in stillness, not noise. When you learn to be comfortable with silence before sleep, you train your mind to remain steady under pressure. Discipline does not begin with dramatic action. It begins with calm attention in the quiet moments no one else sees. Lesson 8. Emotional control is trained at night. Most people believe emotional control is tested during conflict, pressure, or crisis. They think calmness is something you either have or don't. But the Stoics understood a deeper truth. Emotional control is not born in the heat of the moment. It is trained long before the moment arrives. And the training ground is often the quiet of the night. At night, emotions that were suppressed during the day resurface. Irritation, disappointment, regret, and frustration all rise when the mind finally slows down. This is not a weakness. It is an opportunity. These emotions are revealing where control was lost, where expectations were misplaced, and where attachment caused suffering. The Stoics welcomed this information rather than avoiding it. Seneca advised reviewing the day each night, calmly observing emotional reactions without judgment. Not to relive pain, but to learn from it. When you revisit an emotional moment in a controlled environment, you train your mind to respond differently next time. Over time, this nightly review strengthens emotional restraint during real-life challenges. Without this practice, emotions rule silently. If anger goes unexamined, it hardens. If resentment is ignored, it deepens. And by the time a real challenge appears, the emotional response is already conditioned. This is why people often say, "I don't know why I reacted that way." The truth is, they train that reaction unconsciously through repeated emotional neglect. Nighttime reflection allows you to interrupt this cycle. Instead of suppressing emotions, you observe them, you name them, you understand them, then you let them go. This simple act weakens their hold. You might replay a difficult conversation, but this time imagine responding calmly. You might acknowledge frustration, then choose patience. The Stoics believed freedom came from being governed by reason rather than emotion. But reason is not activated automatically. It must be practiced. The quiet moments before sleep are ideal for this training. When you repeatedly choose calm reflection over emotional replay, you condition emotional stability. And when pressure comes, calmness feels natural because you've already rehearsed it in the dark. Lesson 9. Gratitude resets the mind. Gratitude is often misunderstood as a soft or passive emotion. Many people think it means ignoring problems or pretending everything is fine. The Stoics saw it very differently. To them, gratitude was not denial. It was clarity. It was the deliberate recognition of what remained stable and sufficient even in difficult circumstances. And nowhere is gratitude more powerful than at night. When you lie down to sleep, the mind naturally scans the day. It looks for problems, mistakes, and unresolved tension. This is the brain's survival mechanism at work. But if left unchecked, this scan becomes a rehearsal of dissatisfaction. Over time, this conditions the mind to expect disappointment and overlook stability. Gratitude interrupts this pattern. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that he was fortunate simply to reason, to breathe, to act with virtue. These were not grand achievements. They were foundations. By acknowledging them, he anchored his mind in what was within his control. Gratitude, for the Stoics, was a mental reset that prevented the mind from spiraling into complaint and resentment. At night, gratitude shifts the subconscious from scarcity to sufficiency. When you deliberately recall even a few things that went well, a completed task, a calm response, a moment of clarity, the mind begins associating the day with completion rather than failure. This changes how you sleep and how you wake. Without gratitude, the mind carries unfinished emotional weight into sleep. With gratitude, the day is psychologically closed. You tell your subconscious, this day was enough. That message creates rest, not just physically, but mentally. You wake up lighter, more grounded, and more capable of facing what comes next. The Stoics believed that peace came from wanting what you already have, rather than endlessly chasing what you lack. Practicing gratitude before sleep reinforces this principle at the deepest level. It trains the mind to rest in sufficiency rather than tension. Over time, this nightly practice reshapes your baseline emotional state. You become less reactive, less restless, and more resilient, not because life is easier, but because your mind is trained to see clearly. Lesson 10. Choice is your most powerful tool. Every night, as you lay your head on the pillow, there is a silent truth waiting to be acknowledged. You always have a choice. Most people underestimate the power of this moment. They believe choice is only exercised in visible, dramatic situations, at work, in relationships, or during crises. But the Stoics understood that the quiet moments, when no one is watching, are the most important arenas for exercising choice. The decision to feed your mind with fear, resentment, or doubt is as consequential as any decision made in broad daylight. Think about it. When the day ends, your conscious defenses weaken. The distractions fall away. Your mind, previously occupied with tasks, conversations, and responsibilities, finally becomes quiet. That quiet is a blank canvas, and the choices you make in these last minutes plant the seeds for the next day. Will you allow anger or regret to multiply silently in your subconscious? Or will you choose focus, clarity, and gratitude? Every affirmation, every visualization, every intentional thought is a choice, and your subconscious obeys without argument. The Stoics frame choice not as a privilege, but as a responsibility. Epictetus said, "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." The reactions you rehearse at night are the patterns your mind follows automatically the next day. If you repeatedly give in to fear, the mind learns submission. If you repeatedly choose reason, focus, and strength, the mind learns resilience. In this way, choice is both your sword and shield. It defines your character silently, invisibly, yet powerfully. Here's a practical application. Before sleep, review the day and ask, what thoughts do I want to carry into tomorrow? Which reactions will I rehearse? It may seem small, almost trivial, but this habit rewires behavior. By consistently exercising conscious choice at night, you train your subconscious to default to control rather than chaos. And when life tests you during the day, your responses are no longer random. They are deliberate. The night becomes your proving ground, the place where freedom is forged. Choice, in its quiet form, is the ultimate Stoic weapon, and when wielded consistently, it shapes not just your next day, but your life. Lesson 11. Discipline builds freedom. Discipline is often mistaken for restriction or suffering, but the Stoics saw it as the path to freedom. True freedom is not the ability to do whatever you feel like. It is the mastery over impulses, over distractions, over chaos. Every night, when the day's noise fades, you are confronted with the same choice. Surrender to convenience, comfort, or emotional indulgence, or exercise discipline in shaping your mind. This is where the seeds of personal sovereignty are sown. The quiet minutes before sleep are deceptively powerful. A single decision to put away the phone, to silence the world, and to focus on what truly matters is a moment of discipline. Discipline at night is more than habit. It is strategy. Marcus Aurelius would review his day, writing in his journal not as a ritual of vanity, but as a method of internal fortification. He examined his actions, assessed his reactions, and reaffirmed the virtues he wished to embody. By doing this consistently, he trained his mind to operate from reason rather than impulse. And here's the key. Discipline is cumulative. Each night's effort is a brick laid in the foundation of character. The more consistent your nightly practice, the less your mind is hijacked by random fears, anxieties, or distractions during the day. Discipline is quiet, but its effects are loud and unmistakable. Here's a practical application of this principle. Develop a personal ritual of nightly preparation that cultivates focus and self-mastery. Turn off distractions, breathe deeply, review the day objectively, and set the intention for tomorrow. Perhaps write a short list of 3 actions that reflect the best version of yourself. Perhaps repeat affirmations aligned with courage, patience, or persistence. These small, deliberate acts of discipline may seem insignificant in isolation, but their repetition rewires the mind and conditions the subconscious to favor rational, empowered responses over fear or passivity. Discipline is also about resistance, the ability to act despite fatigue, boredom, or discomfort. The Stoics recognize that comfort is seductive and often undermines long-term growth. By choosing consistency over ease, even in the smallest moments before sleep, you create a mental environment that favors resilience and clarity. Over time, your mind stops reacting chaotically and begins operating from a place of deliberate choice. You realize freedom is not granted by circumstances. It is earned in these silent, private moments. Discipline, once established, becomes your most loyal ally. It is the invisible architecture of your character, shaping every thought, action, and choice in ways that will echo far beyond the night. Lesson 12. Your mind is sovereign territory. At the end of every day, there is one truth that cannot be escaped. Your mind is sovereign territory. No one else can rule it for you. The news you consume, the opinions of others, even the lingering voices of your past, they are all intrusions, potential invaders. But when you lie down at night, the gates to your inner world are fully under your control. The Stoics taught that mastery begins here, not with your possessions, your status, or even your body, but with the mind itself. Epictetus reminds us, no man is free who is not master of himself. That mastery is not abstract philosophy. It is practical, actionable, and within your grasp each night before sleep. Your subconscious never rests. It listens, it records, and it builds the blueprint for tomorrow based on the thoughts you feed it. If you allow your mind to be crowded with doubt, fear, or complaint, you are surrendering your territory. But if you consciously choose to focus on strength, clarity, and gratitude, You are exercising true sovereignty. Imagine your mind as a fortress with walls that protect your inner world. Every decision to turn away from mindless scrolling, to close the door on negative thoughts, to repeat empowering affirmations is like reinforcing those walls. Each night you practice sovereignty, the fortress becomes stronger, the subconscious becomes an ally, and your waking life begins to reflect the quiet strength you cultivated in private. Here's a practical approach to claim your mental sovereignty. Start by creating a nightly ritual that prioritizes intention over distraction. Turn off all external noise, screens, notifications, and conversations that pull your mind outward. Sit or lie in silence, breathe deliberately, and review your day not with judgment, but with discernment. Ask yourself, which thoughts will I allow to shape my tomorrow? Which beliefs and affirmations will I plant to grow strength, resilience, and wisdom? Even 5 minutes of disciplined reflection at night can rewire your subconscious to follow your chosen path rather than random impulses. Sovereignty is not only defense, it is also creation. Each night, by choosing your thoughts carefully, you become the architect of your character. Every affirmation of courage, patience, and discipline is a brick in the fortress of your identity. Every visualization of the person you want to become is a blueprint your subconscious will execute in the morning. The Stoics understood this deeply. They knew external events are outside your control, but your response, your inner domain, is yours alone. When you accept full ownership of your mind, you stop being a prisoner of circumstance and start shaping your life deliberately, and this is the ultimate freedom, to rule yourself, even in silence, when no one else is watching, so that your days unfold with clarity, purpose, and power. Lesson 13. Nightly Reflection. Nightly reflection is one of the most powerful tools the Stoics practiced, yet it is overlooked by almost everyone in modern life. After the day's chaos, the endless noise of work, social media, and obligations, few take the time to pause and examine their actions. Marcus Aurelius spent his evenings writing in his journal, asking himself what he did well, where he failed, and how he could align his thoughts and actions more closely with virtue. This wasn't a habit of vanity or self-criticism. It was deliberate training of the mind, a way to shape character quietly and profoundly. Nightly reflection allows you to take control of your mental narrative, to see clearly the patterns that have guided your day, and to consciously decide what you want to carry into tomorrow. The practice of reflection is also deeply practical. Begin by asking yourself a few simple questions before sleep. What did I do today that served my growth? What mistakes did I make? And what can I learn from them? Did I act from impulse or intention? Write or mentally review the answers. By doing this, you are not punishing yourself for mistakes. You're extracting lessons and clarifying your values. This process strengthens self-awareness, the foundation of all Stoic discipline. Over time, nightly reflection rewires your mind. It teaches the subconscious to prioritize growth over comfort, learning over complaint, action over inaction. What you examine in the quiet of the night shapes how you think, act, and respond in the day ahead. Nightly reflection also offers a subtle but profound form of mental cleansing. The subconscious is like fertile soil. Whatever is left unattended grows unchecked. Resentments, regrets, and unprocessed emotions from the day accumulate like weeds in your inner garden. Without reflection, these weeds remain, shaping your dreams, moods, and decisions. By taking a few minutes each night to process events objectively, to release what you cannot control, and to focus on the lessons and victories, you clear your mental soil for the seeds you want to plant. Visualize it like a blacksmith at the end of the day, hammering, polishing, and tempering raw metal into a strong, resilient blade. Your mind. Here's a practical method. Each night, spend 5 to 10 minutes quietly reviewing the day. Note what you are grateful for, what you can improve, and the lessons learned. Avoid judgment or overthinking. Focus on clarity and insight. Afterward, close the practice by visualizing tomorrow. See yourself responding with discipline, courage, and calm. This simple act trains your subconscious to absorb not mistakes, but mastery. Nightly reflection is not passive. It is active preparation for excellence. The Stoics knew that a life well examined is a life well lived. By practicing nightly reflection consistently, you turn every evening into a laboratory for the soul, sharpening your mind, reinforcing your values, and preparing yourself to meet the next day with confidence, focus, and freedom. Lesson 14. Rewriting Limiting Stories. Every one of us carries stories we inherited long before we had a choice. Narratives about who we are, what we deserve, and what we are capable of achieving. Some are empowering, whispered encouragements that fuel growth and courage, but many are heavy chains passed down through childhood experiences, societal expectations, or past failures. Perhaps someone told you, "You'll never amount to anything," or maybe repeated disappointments convinced you, "I'm not enough." The subconscious cannot distinguish between a story you chose and a story imposed upon you. It accepts repetition as reality. And when left unchecked, these limiting stories shape your actions, your identity, and ultimately your life. The Stoics understood this danger deeply. Epictetus wrote, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view which they take of them." The view, the story you tell yourself, determines everything: your freedom, your confidence, your resilience. Nighttime is the most powerful moment to rewrite these narratives. When the conscious mind begins to fade and the subconscious is open and receptive, you can plant new seeds. Imagine ending each day with deliberate phrases: "I am capable, I am disciplined, I am growing stronger every day." At first it may feel foreign, even forced, because the old story still echoes in your mind. But repetition, persistence, and emotional intensity allow the subconscious to begin accepting the new script as truth. Visualize yourself responding to challenges with courage instead of fear, making decisions with clarity instead of doubt, and embracing opportunities instead of shrinking from them. Night after night, your subconscious rehearses this new narrative, gradually replacing the limiting story with one of strength and purpose. The old patterns do not vanish instantly, but consistent, deliberate repetition rewires the pathways of thought and action, reshaping your identity at its core. Here's a practical method to rewrite your limiting stories. First, identify the recurring negative narrative, the inner voice that whispers, "I can't," or "I'm not enough." Write it down. Then, craft a new narrative in clear, affirmative language, such as, "I finish what I start. I face challenges with courage. I am capable of more than I know." Repeat this intentionally every night for 5 to 10 minutes. Pair it with visualization. See yourself acting as the person described in your new story, fully embodying that identity. This isn't wishful thinking, it's intentional programming. Over time, these rehearsals become automatic. Your subconscious begins to integrate the new identity into your behavior, and your waking actions align with the story you've chosen. Consider the analogy of sculpting. Your old limiting stories are rough, unshaped stone. Each night of reflection, affirmation, and visualization is a deliberate stroke of the chisel. At first, progress is slow. The stone seems stubborn, but persistence, night after night, carves out a form, smooths edges, and eventually reveals the strong, confident person within. The Stoics practiced this quietly. They didn't wait for external events to transform them. They understood that mastery begins in the mind, in the stories we tell ourselves when no one else is watching. By rewriting your story intentionally, you reclaim control, dismantle self-imposed limitations, and create the inner foundation for a life of resilience, freedom, and achievement. Nightly practice isn't just reflection, it is liberation. Lesson 15. The Ultimate Stoic Principle. The final lesson the Stoics would leave us with is deceptively simple, yet profoundly transformative. Control your mind, and you control your life. Every Stoic text, from Epictetus to Marcus Aurelius, returns to this singular truth. External events, other people's opinions, and uncontrollable circumstances will always challenge you, disappoint you, and test you. But within the fortress of your own mind, there is a domain you alone govern. This sovereignty is absolute. Every night before sleep, when the world quiets and distractions fade, you have the chance to assert this control. The Stoics recognize that mastery does not come from avoiding hardship. It comes from preparing the mind to face it unshakably. By deciding intentionally what thoughts to feed your subconscious, you can shape your perceptions, reactions, and ultimately, your destiny. Discipline, focus, gratitude, and vision become your allies. Fear, anger, and doubt become obstacles you consciously neutralize. The mind is not a passenger in life. It is the helm. Practical application of this principle begins with nightly awareness. Take stock of your day. Where did you surrender your mind to distraction, emotion, or worry? What seeds of thought did you plant that you do not want to bear fruit tomorrow? Then, consciously choose new seeds, affirmations, gratitude, visualization, and reflection. Visualize yourself facing challenges with courage, speaking with clarity, and acting with integrity. Reinforce the idea that you are the architect of your reality, not a victim of circumstance. This practice isn't theoretical. It rewires the mind over time. Through consistent, intentional nighttime programming, your subconscious begins to operate in alignment with your values. Challenges that once triggered fear now evoke measured response. Opportunities you might have ignored now stand clearly in view. The Stoics would argue that true freedom is not external. It is the ability to remain unshaken, even in the face of life's storms, because your mind has been trained to act from reason, not reaction. The ultimate Stoic principle also reminds us of the profound continuity between night and day. Every night is preparation. Every morning is execution. If you neglect the nightly work of your mind, you enter the day already compromised, carrying the burdens of fear, doubt, and distraction. But if you approach your nights with intention, reflection, and affirmation, the day becomes an extension of your disciplined practice. You are no longer responding to events. You are acting from your chosen identity, grounded in strength, clarity, and virtue. This principle extends beyond philosophy. It is science and strategy combined. Neuroplasticity, subconscious programming, and repeated mental rehearsal all support what the Stoics practiced intuitively. The mind can be trained like a muscle, sculpted with patience, consistency, and intention. In practice, this ultimate principle calls for small but unwavering nightly actions. Spend 5 to 10 minutes reviewing your day, affirming your values, and visualizing your best self. Guard your mind from distractions and toxic influences and choose intentionally the thoughts that will shape your tomorrow. Over time, these nightly choices compound into monumental transformation. You will notice subtle shifts in resilience, clarity, and purpose. Life's external chaos will still exist, but you will navigate it with calm authority. The Stoics would say, mastery of the self is mastery of life. Sculpted grace as a channel embodies this principle, guiding viewers not just to think about philosophy, but to live it night after night, choice by choice, moment by moment. When you close your eyes tonight, remember, the mind never sleeps, and the seeds you plant now will grow into the life you wake up to tomorrow. Guard your thoughts, claim your sovereignty, shape your destiny. Closing affirmation. Tonight, as you close your eyes, know this. You are the master of your mind. You are the ruler of your inner world, the architect of your subconscious, and the author of the story you will live tomorrow. Every thought you allow to take root tonight becomes the foundation of your life. Every feeling you cultivate becomes the energy you carry into the morning. You are not a victim of circumstance. You are not a prisoner of yesterday. You are free, free to choose, free to plant seeds of greatness, free to shape the life you deserve. I am disciplined, I am focused, I am strong, I am calm, I am capable of meeting every challenge with clarity and courage. I do not allow fear, doubt, or anger to occupy my mind. I do not replay the mistakes or regrets of the past. Instead, I plant thoughts of strength, gratitude, and vision, knowing that my subconscious will carry them into tomorrow. I am the guardian of my mind. I am sovereign over my thoughts. I am unshakable in my purpose. Tonight, I let go of what I cannot control. I release worry, resentment, and comparison. I free my mind from distractions, negativity, and fear. I focus only on what I can cultivate: reason, discipline, courage, and virtue. I know that external events cannot dictate my inner peace. My mind is my fortress, my thoughts my soldiers, my values my shield. I am safe, I am grounded, I am aligned with what matters most. I embrace the power of choice. I choose gratitude over complaint. I choose focus over distraction. I choose strength over weakness. I choose patience over frustration. I choose discipline over indulgence. Every choice I make tonight is a seed planted in my subconscious. Every choice will grow into the life I desire. I am the sculptor of my own destiny. Every night is a rehearsal for greatness, and I step into it with intention, awareness, and purpose. I honor my consistency. I do not wait for motivation or emotion to guide me. I act with discipline, even when I do not feel inspired. I show up for myself every night, knowing that small, repeated actions compound into profound transformation. I trust the process. I trust the power of repetition. I trust that the habits I cultivate tonight will shape my character, my decisions, and my life. Consistency is my ally. Discipline is my path. I am unstoppable in my commitment to growth. I program my mind for victory. I visualize my ideal self with vivid clarity. I see myself walking with confidence, speaking with authority, acting with integrity, and facing challenges with courage. I feel the emotions of that version of me as if it is already reality. I anchor those images deeply in my subconscious, knowing that they will guide my actions tomorrow. I am creating the life I want, thought by thought, moment by moment. My subconscious obeys my commands. My reality follows my imagination. I embrace the silence of the night. I see it as sacred. I understand that while my body rests, my mind never sleeps. Every second of quiet is an opportunity to reinforce truth, virtue, and power. I refuse to waste this moment on negativity, distraction, or fear. I use it intentionally. I use it wisely. I use it to strengthen the version of myself I am becoming. My nights are not idle. They are my secret weapon. They are my training ground. They are my greatest opportunity for transformation. I let go of all limiting stories. I reject beliefs that no longer serve me. I release the voices of doubt, insecurity, and judgment that I have carried for too long. I replace them with truth. I am capable. I am resilient. I am disciplined. I am growing stronger every day. I am enough. I am worthy. I am free. I am moving forward, guided by reason, fueled by purpose, and aligned with virtue. My past does not define me. My future is mine to shape. I embrace the Stoic way. I understand that life will always present obstacles, but my mind is unshakable. I respond to challenge with calm, clarity, and courage. I do not waste energy on what I cannot control. I focus on what I can, my thoughts, my actions, my character. I am prepared. I am resilient. I am at peace. I am aligned with the principles of wisdom, courage, justice, and self-mastery. My nights are my classroom, my sanctuary, and my forge for greatness. Tonight, I commit to guarde,